Antigua and Barbuda and Grenada, hours away from the results of referenda on ditching the Privy Council for the Caribbean Court of Justice. That's our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Tuesday, November 6th. From the CMC News Centre in Bridgetown, I'm Nicole Best. Good evening. The counting of ballots is underway in the Caribbean Court of Justice CCJ referenda that took place in Antigua and Barbuda and Grenada on Tuesday, with the leaders of both Eastern Caribbean countries relatively confident of success and suggesting they won't be leading another vote on the issue if the referenda fails. In a matter of hours, it will be known whether citizens chose to stay with the London-based Privy Council or replace it with the Trinidad-based CCJ as their final appeal court. Both countries require a two-thirds majority yes vote to make the switch. In Antigua, Prime Minister Gaston Brown went out early to cast his ballot on Tuesday morning, and he said he was satisfied he had done all he could to ensure citizens were in a position to make a reasonable judgment on the issue. And he said he was hopeful residents of the Twin Island nation had seen the importance of the yes vote.
So this issue is not about winning or losing, it's about providing justice to all. It will be unfortunate if we do not get the 67% because I'm not too sure when this opportunity will be made available to the people of Antigua and Barbuda again. In fact, it took us 37 years after independence to get to this stage. And I'm just hoping that the people will seize this opportunity, recognizing that these opportunities come once in a lifetime.
The main opposition, United Progressive Party, did not support the move to replace the Privy Council at this time and had urged supporters to vote their conscience. Over in Grenada, citizens voted on the issue for the second time in as many years, as Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell stressed that support for the CCJ would cement the country's political independence from Britain. 2 years ago, voters narrowly rejected a bill that would have allowed the island to join Barbados, Dominica, Belize and Guyana in having the CCJ as their highest court. And as they returned to the polls on Tuesday, reports indicate that turnout had been slow. Supervisor of Elections Alex Phillip noted that last Friday, when police participated in an early referendum vote, there had also been a slow start, but a 48% turnout was recorded. Speaking after casting his ballot, Prime Minister Mitchell said he was hopeful of similar turnout in Tuesday's vote and a two-thirds majority this time around.
Well, I feel reasonably confident that we'll achieve the two-thirds majority. Of course, one of the things we've been indicating to our supporters as a political organization is that it's not just getting the two-thirds, it's also the numbers of persons that turn out, you know, because you want to make sure that people genuinely participated. When the history is written, people want to know that you had a reasonable turnout. I mean, we know we're not going to get the 78 or 80% we had last election, but if we got 40%, 50%, I think I'll be very happy.
Mitchell said if this referendum is not successful, there will not be another attempt to replace the Privy Council with the CCJ under his leadership.
If it doesn't pass, it's unlikely that this person standing here will be the Prime Minister when the next attempt will be made. It's very unlikely. I would not initiate any activity. If it comes in my lifetime, you know, I'm not like some people when they're in government they support, when they're in opposition they go the other way. I wouldn't do that. So if I'm alive when the next attempt is made, I certainly would support and give my support, because I believe this thing is not about NNP and NDC, about any party. This is about our children and grandchildren's future. I don't play with this. Others want to play with this and make cheap political things out of something that is to me so basic. They would have a conscience problem. They'll have to explain to their children and grandchildren about the role they played in ensuring that we keep the Privy Council, which is so far removed from us as a nation.
Well, news now coming to CMC's newsroom suggests that preliminary figures indicate Grenadians for a second time voted against replacing the London-based Privy Council with the Caribbean Court of Justice as the island's highest court. Up to news time, which is just a few minutes ago, 249 of the 254 polling stations were counted. 11,833 voted against and 9,594 voted yes. Of course, we said earlier that these are preliminary figures. The official figures we will have for you in our next bulletin. The Barbados Workers Union, the BWU, says the state-owned Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation, CBC, has announced plans to send home more than half of its 230-strong workforce, while also agreeing to a proposal by the employees' bargaining agent for voluntary separation. Special advisor for the BWU and former General Secretary Sir Roy Trotman made the disclosure to reporters on Monday night following more than 2 hours of discussions with CBC management. He said the union was unsuccessful in its attempt to get the corporation to give an enhanced separation package to those volunteering to leave.
Today's meeting was a follow-up to the one which we held last Friday. When we met on Friday, we decided that it was necessary and it was according to the protocol and to the law that what CBC should do was to allow, first of all, for a discussion that would give people the chance to volunteer for separation if they so desired. So CBC has done that, and we expect that sometime over the next 2 or 3 days, those persons who wish to leave CBC will do so. We were hoping to get an enhanced package for those separations, but CBC has been insisting that the circumstances of its finances are so dire that they are not able to go beyond what are the limits set out in the Employment Rights Act.
In a statement on Tuesday, CBC confirmed that it had agreed with the BWU on the option of voluntary separation. It said that severance payments and payments in lieu of notice for those opting for voluntary separation packages and the retrenched employees would be as outlined in the Severance Payments Act and the Employment Rights Act. Just last week, the union announced that workers at the state-owned entity would be receiving a 5% wage increase, and Sir Roy confirmed that further talks will be held next Monday with CBC.
Our understanding is that it will be shedding 116 persons, 116, or 52% of its current staff. That drinks deep. It cuts very, very deep, and it's painful. Not because we haven't had other places where we had large numbers, but those were where the numbers were even greater. This is 116 or possibly 230. So you can see just how grave that is.
The 6-month-old Mayor Motley-led administration has embarked on a retrenchment program as part of its Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation BERT plan, which is aimed at revitalizing the ailing economy. That plan has received the backing of the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, which approved a $290 million extended fund facility for the country. Over in Jamaica now, the IMF is pleased with Jamaica's implementation of its $1.66 billion standby arrangement, the SBA, and it says it remains strong. But the executive board, which completed the 4th review under the SBA, said structural adjustment impediments need to be quickly addressed to foster private capital formation and accelerate growth and job creation. It also called on the government to ensure a reduction in the public sector wage bill. IMF Deputy Managing Director Tao Zhang, who served as the acting chair of the board review meeting, said reduced wage outlays will allow the government to reprioritize public spending towards security, social assistance, and growth-enhancing capital expenditure. He said achieving that wage bill reduction would require a broad overhaul of the public compensation and allowance system and a reduction in the size of the government workforce. The IMF official also said the financial sector should be further strengthened with priority placed on enhancing coordination, data collection, monitoring, and strengthening technical capacity of the financial regulators. And still to come in Caribbean Newsline, Bermuda pressing ahead with plans to legalize marijuana for medical purposes. Stay with us. There's more news after the break.
carnival in my toss and sleep. We couldn't wait to jump in the street. 365 every dog in the heat.
We're bringing stakeholders in the HIV response to the table.
In every platform, at every stage, wherever the conversation is happening, it is very crucial and important to have somebody living with HIV present.
Tackling stigma and discrimination head on.
We're not going to get there if we don't start looking at stigma and discrimination and providing legal ways of persons getting redress when they face stigma and discrimination.
And charting a way forward for treatment.
I remember the days when there was no treatment and people would go to their support groups to talk about who was in the hospital, who had died last week.
Join the Caribbean Vulnerable Communities Coalition, CVC, on the Coalition Corner, coming soon to this channel.
Bermuda's Premier David Burt says his government is pressing ahead with plans to allow the cultivation of marijuana for medical purposes. But he's assuring that even as his administration goes that route, it won't be done at the risk of damaging the British Overseas Territories' relationships with international partners, particularly the United States. Gary Moreno of Bermuda Broadcasting News tells us more.
Any such agricultural endeavors in Bermuda would be solely for medicinal purposes. But the opposition, through Ben Smith, the Shadow Minister of National Security, has expressed concern as to issues such as banking the profits from the proposed new trade and the impact it could have on relations with our largest trading partner, the United States, where although some state governments have legalized their practice, it remains a federal crime. Premier Burt is undaunted by such talk.
We made a promise inside of our election manifesto. That election received us almost 60% of the vote of this country. Inside of that election manifesto, it stated that we will allow doctors to prescribe medicinal cannabis and enable a regime for domestic medicinal cannabis production. That was a promise we made to the electorate. That was what the electorate blessed, and that is what we'll execute and deliver on.
While Mr. Baird would not go into detail about the proposed medical marijuana plan, he made it clear nothing is being left to chance as it pertains to any possible backlash from Uncle Sam.
We're going to make sure that we do everything in a responsible fashion, and that will continue. But we are going to deliver on the promises that we made to the electorate.
The hope has been expressed that the idea would be fleshed out in Friday's throne speech. So will that document fill in the blanks about medical marijuana farming?
That's not what the throne speech is for. So no, you cannot expect to see more details in the throne speech. You can expect to hear more details from the minister who has responsibility for that, who is the Attorney General. And I'm sure that we will be delivered in a responsible fashion that meets our campaign promise.
Changes to the United Kingdom's foreign aid budget are said to bring much-needed access to disaster funding for British Overseas Territories. The news has come from the Cayman Islands' new Governor, Martin Roper. We get more in this Cayman 27 news report.
In his first news conference, Governor Martin Roper confirmed that the UK was successful in its bid to get the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development to allow overseas territories hit by natural disasters to access money ring-fenced for foreign aid.
So in the future, we will be able to use ODA budgets in disaster relief, which will include the Cayman Islands. So I think that's a really good example of how working together we can do even more.
After Irma and Maria struck the BVI and Turks and Caicos in 2017, the islands didn't qualify for official development assistance, ODA, because their national incomes were too high.
The OECD has changed its rules on using ODA budgets to help territories going through natural disasters. Last year, in the serious hurricanes, the UK wasn't able to use its ODA budget to help territories in disasters.
At this time of year, the hurricane threat is still a concern for Cayman, as is the looming Brexit deadline, another potential storm cloud on the horizon.
Because this is a major issue facing the UK, and we're running up against the 31 March deadline. So I think it's clearly important, and it's clearly important for the overseas territories as well.
And ahead in Newsline sport, West Indies lose the 3-match T20 series against India after another batting collapse. Stay with us. There's sport after this break.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Remain dressed with shoes in the event that an evacuation is required.
Well, the American Civil War was certainly one of the darker periods in our nation's history. 11 southern states left the Union in 1860, formed their own country to protect the institution of slavery. The United States thought the Confederate States were wrong to leave the Union and initiated a war that raged across the country for 4 years. More than 620,000 American soldiers died in the Civil War. Many are wondering if today we're headed towards another one.
More woeful batting forced the West Indies to surrender the second T20 international on Tuesday, and this after India stormed to victory by 71 runs to take an unassailable 2-0 lead in the 3-match series. Batting first at the Atal Vajpayee Stadium in Lucknow, the Indians frustrated the Windies' bowling attack as they raced to 195 for 2, with captain Rohit Sharma reaching his 5th T20 ton. He finished with an unbeaten 111 from 61 balls, while left-hand batsman Shakir Dhawan chipped in with 43 and wicket-keeper batsman Lokesh Rahul scored 26. Windies took their first victim when the Indians were on 123 after 13 overs. Here are the highlights.
Here we go. Goes for it. Mid-off was in. Well, he made room to play on the offside. Cracking shot. Now he finds the gap. The stadium is big, and Rohit Sharma as well. He's gone for it. It's very high in the air. And he's dropped it. This one's been timed well, and it's gone the distance. Pulled, and it's a cracking shot. There it is. Gets his half century, and we'll get a double in the process. Oh, ho, ho, what a shot. Goes for it, goes all the way for another 6.
That's another one, but it's high up in the air. Is he going to get the distance? Easy, man, easy.
Taken.
Gone for it again, and he's gone. Hetmeyer taking that catch. What a shot.
Excellent placement. Another one. This time a bit of bottom hand as well. That's another 6. Gets 4. Well, he's going to get 4 runs. Not quite the Rohit Sharma shot, but it gets him his 4th T20 international 100. Oh dear, just an incredible hitter of the cricket ball.
Good delivery, the final one. 20 runs at the final over, and what a display by India.
In reply, the dismal batting performance continued to haunt the Caribbean side as they were left reeling on 81 for 7 after 18 overs. None of the batsmen produced significant totals as their innings folded on 124 for 9.
Glorious. Starts off with a 6. Cleaned him up. Shea Hope wanted to play that shot on the very first ball. Clubbed away and hit it past the bowler.
They split the gap perfectly. Oh, this could be out. Yes, and the tie 5.
33 for 2. Hit hard. Can't make it.
It's his night.
48 for 3. Knocked him over. The wrong one. No clue. Absolutely no clue.
Struck hard. Shikhar Dhawan has no chance. Oh, that should be another wicket. That should be an easy one. Oh, that wasn't too smart from Pollard. Up in the air and taken. Good catch from Rohit.
Or should I rephrase it? Got his first wicket. And he'll consider himself unlucky. Oh, is that another wicket? Directed, he got stopped.
And he's got to go. Well, he's got to clear that field at long gone. This is a good hit. Nice sound. This one as well will go well over the boundary. Goes for it, and he gets it over the boundary to end the over with another 6.
So that's totally understandable. This is out. This is going to be out. Rohit Sharma back in action.
Gone. This time the slow ball was much fuller in length. No, he's on the floor. Love the attitude. So there you go. The match is over. And India winning by 71 runs.
Well, outspoken T20 star Dwayne Bravo has branded Cricket West Indies' treatment of Darren Sammy as disrespect, especially considering the contribution of the two-time World Cup winning captain to the game in the region. Sammy led West Indies to their historic capture of the T20 World Cup in Kolkata 2 years ago when they beat England in a dramatic final at Eden Gardens. But after controversially criticizing CWI at the post-match ceremony over their handling of the team's preparation for the tournament and throughout the campaign, Sammy was never selected again for West Indies. Speaking with I-95 FM in Trinidad, Bravo said he didn't expect the World Cup final would be Sammy's last.
He said in his speech, it's a matter of frustration was building up all inside, and he just eventually was able to let it go at a platform where the entire world is listening. Well, I know for sure after that speech, it would have been problems with Sammy. I didn't expect that game, that final game, to be his last game. That, to me, that's a disrespect. To see someone who captained maybe over 40 test matches for you, at one point in time was the golden boy of West Indies cricket, went to World Cups for you, and because he speaks his mind, he no longer get the opportunity to play again. So, two-time world champion captain, playing a World Cup final, lifting the trophy, make a speech, and that was his last time the people of the Caribbean get to see Darren Sammy play. To me, that was a disrespect, and I know, again, it goes back to show the mentality of the people who run West Indies cricket. You know, whenever you speak your mind, that's it. They consider you as a rebel, or they consider you as somebody, okay, time to move on from you.
Bravo, who quit all forms of international cricket last month, said West Indies cricket was no longer respected around the world, largely due to CWI's management of the game.
Because of how West Indies cricket is run, world cricket don't respect us anymore. And yeah, it's there because we don't respect ourselves. So if we don't respect ourselves as a nation, as a people, how do you expect the rest of the world to respect us? We produce the best in the world for so many years. We dominate world cricket. And then, to see West Indies cricket stated, it's now everyone is laughing. And no one, West Indies team, apart from whichever is the home island, West Indies team is the most loved team. But a lot of people don't want to see West Indies rule again. They don't want to see West Indies dominate again because they know what happened in the past. And because we're always fighting amongst ourselves, they laugh at us. So whenever we turn up into major tournaments, they will always have these negative things to say about West Indies cricket and the players and all these things. And
we apologize for the poor quality of those two inserts there. Veteran Barbadian jockey Patrick Husbands has been ruled out of the remainder of the Woodbine season and is set to undergo 2 surgeries after being thrown from his mount ahead of the 5th race at the prestigious Western Canada Racing Oval on Sunday. The 7-time Woodbine champion was unseated by 3-year-old filly Islay Inlet in the parade ring, suffering a broken pelvis during the fall and cutting short a successful weekend in the saddle. Despite the incident, Husbands was said to be in good spirits and already looking forward to spending his holidays in his native Barbados. He is one of the most successful jockeys in the history of Woodbine, with 3,285 victories and nearly 160 million Canadian dollars in winnings over his decorated career. Sunday's injury was the second in 5 years for Husbands, who fractured his leg at Woodbine in 2013 when his horse collapsed after passing the finish. And that's the sport. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
My keen eye and 18 rock bass later tell me that this place is loaded with rock bass.
Well, I can assure you, rock bass are not on today's menu. However, I wouldn't mind a bag of Reese's Pieces right about now. Madfish, thrown home.
A small guy. A pickerel, awesome. Just what I've always wanted for Christmas.
Come and experience exceptional fun. Meet amazing people. Enjoy fantastic food and rock the nights away to world-class music at the 23rd Annual St. Kitts Music Festival. 3 nights of musical entertainment from the 27th to the 29th of June 2019. Book now and save the date. For more information, log on to stkittsmusicfestival.net. St. Kitts Music Festival, an experience like no other.
Again, the major developments of this day. Grenadians have voted against making the Caribbean Court of Justice the island's highest court. 12,133 voted against, compared to 9,846 in favor. Meanwhile, counting is continuing to take place in Antigua and Barbuda in their CCJ referendum. In sport, more woeful baton forces the West Indies to surrender the second T20 International against India, and along with it, the 3-match series. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to KanaNews.com. We'll be back here again tomorrow. But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and do have yourselves a good night.